all hot paper craft. Here's one finished model of the sports car, and this is another one. Hello, so here's how to do the sports car. You start by putting your cursor in the center and by adding a cube. And then you first go to the side view, you select the cube, you move down, and you need to put this cube to the corner where the windscreen and the hood meet, which is here. You see that? Here. Okay, so now you can move your cursor to this very same position and scale the lower edge and the back edge. Okay, so you have this from the side. Then you go to the top view and you move move this over to the lower edge. And this time you only need the green axis. And this looks almost correct. We just need to make it a little bit less wide. Okay, so this. So now we have this. Okay, and for the front of the sports car, we need 3 steps. Okay, and for that we go to edit mode. And in edit mode, of course, we have 3 kinds of things. We can select only vertices, we can select edges, and we can select surfaces. We basically don't need the vertices, so just better not to touch them. Okay, so you have the edge, and then each time you need to use the extrude tool to extrude out this surface. Okay, and when you use the extrude tool, it's important to click on the plus point so it comes out straight, because if you don't, it will come out in some other direction. Another thing that's important is when when you pull several times, you pull new ones. Okay, so if you move it and then you need to adjust it, you just go back to the move tool and then you can move that part. Another thing to be careful of is if you pull it out, that you don't accidentally pull it back or something like this, because that creates problems. Okay, so you switch to the side view and then you scale out to about here. Okay, then you switch to the top view, and now to scale right. So now if this is aligned to the cursor, then it's not scaling in the right position. If the cursor is somewhere near the middle, it's still not like really correct, right? So the best idea is to actually switch the alignment to the bounding box center, because it's the exact center of this surface. Okay, switch to the top, and here it only becomes very, very slightly smaller. Yeah, very slightly smaller. And then it goes, then this edge, I can click this edge to, hey, no, not vertex, edge. I can click this edge to move it up and down. Yeah, and again, this one only goes very slightly down. Very slightly down. Okay, then you are ready for the next step. Switch to the main, switch to this one, extrude out again. And now you extrude over to this corner. The corner and the bottom, you can deal with it later. We will deal with it later. Switch to the top view. And again, scale to this width. Okay. And then go to the side view and select the upper edge and move it down to the right position. Again, here the lower one, we'll deal with it later. Select the surface again, pull out to here, and then once again from the top view, scale along both directions to this corner. Okay, so then once again select the edge, and now you can move this. You can switch to X-ray to see better, so you can move that to some position somewhere around here. Then you take this edge and move it to a position around here. And then this edge, you just move for here, you just take this edge, and then you move that back a little bit. Okay, and then you already have the front part of the sports car. Okay, and then you to be in the back, you will, it's a good idea to turn off this image for now. Okay, so then you go to the back, you select the surface, and once again you pull out. Yeah, pull out. Wait, this was move. So here, extrude out. Okay, and then the same thing again, go to the top view, align the two sides, adjust the two sides, and yeah, something is not correct here actually, I just noticed. But anyway, okay, so like this. Okay, and then once again you take the lower edge and move it up, turn on the X-ray, use the lower edge and move that up. Yeah, use the upper edge and move that to the front and up, and then take this edge and this edge you can actually move it over here. Okay, so now you have the main body for the sports car. And now the next thing would be the cabin. And for the cabin you have two options. One is to use extrude again. So use extrude again, extrude out, and then you use go to X-ray view, go to up view, and then scale to this width and adjust the two edges. Adjust this edge to over here and this edge to over here. Then of course adjust the position around here. Okay, something like this. Another way would be to use the inset face, so then you can learn a new tool. So for the inset face, you switch to X-ray mode, you switch to top view, and now if you pull on this circle, you will create the inner side. So you can move this to the width of the upper cabin, and then same thing again. You adjust this edge to here. You adjust this edge to here. And then you still need to select this surface and pull it out to the right height, and move it a little bit over here and adjust the front one to go a little bit up. Okay, so now you have the cabin basically ready, and now you have the basic shape for the sports car is done. Actually this corner is not so nice here. So what you could do here is actually to use the knife to cut an additional line here and then make the car a little bit more narrow here in this corner, right? Okay, so for the knife you can, okay, so for the knife you click on the edge, then you make a line, and every time you click there's a corner, and when you put enter it will be selected. Okay, so then it becomes a new edge. Then you could move this, then you can do something with that edge. Okay, but this edge here is pretty useless, so we want to delete it. We want to get rid of it again. So for that we use delete edges. No, we don't use delete edges because this is strange, right? What we do is we use dissolve edges. Okay, so now this disappears. Okay, now we can try again to use the knife. We click here on the top, and then we can push wide, which will limit it to go along the y-axis. But actually we need the z-axis here. Okay, so we need the z-axis. We push z to go along the z-axis. Go down here, click on the edge, hit enter. So now we have this new edge. Okay, then we hide the image here. Do the same thing on the other side. Actually, you can skip this part if it's not really needed, but it can make it maybe a little bit better. So move along the z-axis, click down here, enter. Okay, so now it would be a good idea to actually make an additional edge here down between the two of them. For that I click to the X-ray mode, and now I can click here, move over to here, enter. Okay, so now I have this frame. well, actually, I don't need this frame. I just need to adjust this corner. Okay, so I select this. I need to quit the knife first. So now I go here, and I can make this a little bit less wide. Okay, so then it looks better. Okay, it looks better. Okay, so then the main body is finished. Next thing we are going to need are the wheels and the holes in which the wheels are set. Okay, so for that, it makes sense to hide the body. So we close the body here and we save. And here we have two circles. You see, one circle are the wheels and one circle are the holes which the wheels go in. And so we will first start with one wheel and then we can adjust that to create this other part. So we go back to object mode. The object mode, we add a cylinder. Okay, we add a cylinder. And if you click to add a cylinder, then first the next thing you should do, before you do anything else, you should go down here to add where it says add cylinder, which is of course here the adjust last operation. Okay, and then here it says vertices. As you can see many corners here. So if you set this to around 80 or 90, then it will become more round. Okay, so that's the first thing you do with the cylinder. You take that cylinder, then you rotate it by 90 degrees to move it to this direction. Then you go to the side view, you move it over to, you move it down to align with the wheel. Then you put the cursor in the top and then you can scale towards the cursor. Of course, you need to adjust to the cursor. You can scale towards the cursor to get the right size for your wheel. Maybe it's still a little bit bigger. Okay, get the right size for your wheel. Okay, then you have it. And then you, of course, should also adjust the width. Yeah, so you move it over here. Put the cursor on the inside. And then scale the width to here. Okay, so you have one wheel. And then you should duplicate this wheel. So to duplicate, you click on the object. Click right mouse button, you click duplicate objects, and then you don't move. If you move, then you lose. Okay, so you need to go back. You click, you duplicate objects, and you just click without moving. So now the new object will be put in exactly the same position. Okay, so now what I should do next is I should scale this object to become that hole. And I will put the cursor a little bit above here. Okay. Align by cursor, of course. Wait, this is not supposed to be here. Then here, scale this out to achieve this outer size. Okay, and then another thing I do is I put the cursor on the inside again. I put the cursor here on the inside again and scale. Yeah, why does the scale not appear anymore? That's not good. No object is selected. Okay, so select the front. Click here on the outside and scale it a little bit longer. Okay, then also I could switch to this view and make sure that this outer ring is a little bit higher than the wheel. You see that? Especially if you close the image, you will see it good. So this should be a little bit higher here. Okay, this should be a little bit higher. So close this again and go back to the regular view. Now I will duplicate this one. Duplicate, and I will move it to over here to the position here. Okay, then I have this two, and then I will duplicate both of them and move them over to the other side. Okay, so now I need to make sure that this view is aligned correctly with the bottom view. So that can be a little bit tricky, yeah? So I can move it a little bit to the front and down. And then I can see here in the corner if it's correct. Okay, so obviously it isn't. So I'll move it a little bit. No, that's the wrong one. So I'll move it a little bit back here, and as you can see, it needs to be slightly smaller. I will make it center, scale it a little down, and you can see now it's aligned correctly. And now I can move it back and also of course back up. Okay, so now I have these things to create the wheel holes. I bring back my body, and now I should save. I will save, yeah. And then I should save under a new name. Save as Sports Car 2. Okay, so this is because before you use the bool tool, it's better to save, because the changes you cannot undo them again later. Okay, if you want to fix if you mess up the body and you need to fix it later, it's not going to work. Okay, so then once again I look at my front view and I need to make sure that the wheel is in the correct position. Okay, so obviously they aren't. Okay, so I'll select these two. I will move them inward to around here. And then these two are too far outside, too far inside, and these two I will move them out to here. And obviously the back one is not correct, it's not the same, so here. Okay, turn off the bottom view. Turn off the bottom view, where's the bottom view? Here. And then look at the bottom view and make sure that this distance is the same. Okay, so obviously this here is not the same quite. It needs to come in a little bit more. Okay, so now it's about the same. Okay, so now I can save, and now I can go ahead with using the bool tool. And I just realized this corner here is not really nice. So actually it's better, maybe better to go in here, select this edge and move this edge a little bit to the front so that the corner will be hidden by that car, okay, by that edge, by the thing which will be cut out. Okay, so now I can finally go ahead with cutting out. And when cutting out, it's important to remember that you should select the image which will be cut away first, and then the image which it will be cut away from. If I choose the body first and then the wheel, what's going to happen is that this is going to be cut away from the wheel. Okay, that's not what we want. So select this first, and then select the body, object, Boolean, difference. Okay, again here, select, object, Boolean, difference. Select, object, Boolean, difference. And select, object, Boolean, difference. Okay, so now we have the holes for the wheels. And now we can switch to the bottom view. And we can make sure that the wheel is aligned correctly with the edge here. And there's a second wheel obviously here, where it has been duplicated. I move this over here. Make sure it's in the right position. Maybe you need to switch to this mode to see better. Yeah. And move it into the hole. Then you go back to the regular view. You duplicate the two wheels. And yeah, okay, so the position is not correct here, obviously. Wait. So this one, move it all the way to the edge here. Okay, so now I have these two wheels. I duplicate them and move them over to the other side. Again, making sure that I align them properly. Okay, so I have this. Okay, so this is the basic sports car. I will save. And then you still have to do two more things. Okay, so one thing is you need to have the spoiler. And for the spoiler, it's better to turn off the top view. So the spoiler later in the model will actually be flat. But it's not good to use it to make it flat, okay? So that's why we use a cube once again. Yeah. And then we make this cube as flat as possible. But it's still a box, okay? So we make it very, very flat. And then we go to the top view and we make sure it has the same size as the plane of the how to say, the foil of the spoiler. Maybe switch to X-ray view, and then switch to X-ray view and align by cursor. move it to this size. Yeah, if you want, you can also make the spoiler bigger actually. Okay, then move it here. So we have the basic, so we have the horizontal surface of the spoiler. Okay, you see? And then we can move that into position. Move that into position around here. And yeah, you can either keep it straight or rotate it a little bit. Rotate it a little bit. Okay, so then this is one edge of the spoiler, and then we still need the we still need the parts which connect it to the car body. So for that, yeah, I already rotated it, so that was a little bit stupid. So I go back and unrotate it, and I will duplicate it first. And move it a little bit off. And now I rotate this by 90 degrees. And then I should move this over to, I should move this over to the position of the spoiler. Okay, so actually it's easier to do this first and then make it a little bit shorter to be more easy to deal with. So make it more shorter, and then what I will do is and this is a little bit tricky. I will select the lower surface. I will go to edit mode. I will select the lower surface. Okay, zoom out, and then I can move this surface forward to create this. Yeah, and okay, so now this is this thing, and go back to the main view. And maybe also turn on the body again. So now I can have one of them as this needs to move up a little bit, so it will hide the tip of that. Okay, so then I can actually it's also possible like this, but normally there are two because it's to hold better. So one would be here, and then I will duplicate that, and another one would be here, and also better to make sure that they are in the right position. Okay, so this view is the best view actually for this. Okay, so you can see here, this one moves to this corner, and this one is in this corner. Okay, so now I have the spoiler. Okay, so the spoiler for the sports car. And then one more final touch for the sports car would be the huge exhaust pipes. Okay, and for the huge exhaust pipe, move over here, turn off the image on the back side so you can see better. Okay, now you need another cylinder. You can just duplicate the wheel. Okay, then you move the wheel over, rotate it around Z axis for 90. Okay, scale it small. Scale it small and move it to here to make sure it's the right size. Okay, and then one more thing that you need to do, and then the back position, the position here in the back is not shown, but it should be probably somewhere around here. Okay, so then you go into edit mode. Well, actually first you can scale it. You can scale it. So you go here, click here, and scale it, aligned by cursor. Scale it so that it goes all the way into the car. Yeah, and there was the position was messed up a little bit. So move it over here. Okay, so and now the last thing that you need to do is you need to, and we will not have an inner. Actually, we can just keep it like this. I just realized. I was just thinking that you could technically delete this surface to make it an actual hole, right? But you can do that later as well, okay? So then you, of course, you should duplicate this one and have a second one on the opposite side. And again, it's good to switch to the wireframe mode to see the correct position. Okay, so we have the exhaust pipes. Then we switch back to normal view. And then what we do is we try to make this the same. And if we want to rotate the spoilers, which we don't need, but now is a good time to rotate them. So now you position it over here, and then you rotate them slightly downwards and move them a little bit to the front. Okay, so that's the spoiler and that's the sports car. And now the last thing that we will do is to just select all of them. Select all of them except the wheels. And now we use the bool tool again, and now we use the bool tool to turn them into one. Okay, and now what happens is there's a hole here, but it doesn't matter because later when you print it on the page, it will be a white hole anyway. Wait, we forgot something. The rear view mirrors. So turn off the main body. Where's the main body? Here. Okay, main body is turned off. So now for the rear view mirrors, of course, we again start with a cube. And now we need to move this cube to align it with the position of the rear view mirror, and maybe switch to X-ray. Put the cursor in the corner here, scale down to this distance, and try to make the size a little bit like this, okay? Okay, so now we have to rotate a little bit along the blue axis to get it in this position. Okay, and we still didn't adjust the height, obviously. So we make the height shorter to something like this. Okay, move it down to the right position. Move it down. Maybe now it's too small. So move it a little bit up and scale it a little bit up. Okay, so now look at the top view. So now what we still need is we still need to adjust this one edge. So for that we go to the edit mode. We select the edge. We select this edge. We go to the top view and we move this edge up and to the front. Okay, so this is the rear view mirror. Bring back all the other stuff. And yeah, maybe the rear view mirror needs to come out a little bit more. Yeah, something like that. And look to the front view, look to the top view, and look to the top view. Duplicate the rear view mirror. Click, and then move it over to the other side. And then switch the bounding block to the center. And now we can mirror. So we click again. We mirror, and we say here, Y global. Okay. Now, so now we can see if these two mirrors are about the same size. So this is a little bit more, seems to be a little bit more out. So this can move a little bit more in to make sure that the size is the same. Okay, so we have the two rear view mirrors. And once again, we select all of them. And then we use bool tool to unify everything. And save. And then we are ready to define the parts, do the texture, paint, and unfold. Thank you for watching.